run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
Clinton has denied election results, and so have dozens of other Democrats. So why is the justice system hands off with them and want cuffs on Trump? Bruce Lavelle will join us from Georgia with reaction.
And we found Joe, but surprise, surprise, he's not in Maui, where he could be consoling families and offering some kind of leadership. No, good old Joe had to make a campaign stop.
The Fulton County Sheriff and the District Attorney demanding that Trump and his co-defendants be booked and mugshotted at the county jail. The big question this morning, though, will Trump's mugshot become the most infamous mugshot of all times? It is lights, camera, and action right now on American Sunrise. We've got your back as you start your day.
Articulating what the majority of Americans feel today, and I really appreciate that you do.
Y'all tell the truth.
You guys are our voice.
We watch every morning while getting ready for work.
Good morning, sunshine. Happy Wednesday to you. I'm Miranda Khan, along with Dr. Gina Loudon, and we are coming to you live from West Palm Beach. We just averted a major crisis right before the show. I'm sure you can relate to this. The exploding pen. But we survived.
We did.
We had ink everywhere.
We had ink everywhere, but Matthew saved the day. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, well, that just proves that we are really a family, right?
That's right.
We come to each other with, if we have a need, someone's there.
Usually it's lipstick, but anyway. This mug shot,
right,
I think will be printed on 1 million shirts and cups and will bring in millions to the Trump campaign, and someone will probably indict him the next time there's more information about Joe Biden and all of his bribery schemes. Someone will probably indict Donald Trump for selling what was public property and it being a mugshot. I'm just detecting a pattern here.
Yeah, a little bit. Let's welcome in now our good friend David Brody, joining us live from D.C. I think Gina's right. I mean, we joke, but the man could jaywalk, and he's going to be indicted.
No doubt about it. And, you've got ink in the studio all over. And I think the deep state up here in D.C. is going to have egg on its face, because ultimately what's going to happen here is that all of this is going to be relitigated. And I say relitigated. I really should just say litigated. The election fraud, because was it really ever litigated? Now, the left will say, yes, it was because of lawsuits that were rejected. Hold on. We haven't even gotten to the whole main entree yet. That was never put into the court discovery phase, and that's coming, ladies, right here in D.C. and all across the country.
Well, I am foreseeing a big, nice mugshot of President Trump on my coffee cup very soon. All right, let's get to some quick headlines from the one and only T. Bates in Denver. Terrance, what has happened overnight last night?
Well, Dr. Gina, as President Trump prepares himself to show up in Georgia and to turn himself into law enforcement there next week to be processed for the latest indictment against him out of Fulton County, Georgia, he is continuing, though, to lay out his plan for after he is elected to the White House next year. Part of that plan includes appointing a special counsel to investigate current President Joe Biden for criminal corruption.
I believe we have a compromised president. He was bribed, and now he's being blackmailed. He's a Manchurian candidate. That's why Crooked Joe is letting other countries walk all over the United States. He's afraid to bring it up. He doesn't want to talk about it. He's petrified of China because they know exactly how much money has been given to him.
In the meantime, we now know that President Trump and his 18 co-defendants in the Fulton County, Georgia case will be booked at the Fulton County Jail like common criminals. They have until next Friday to turn themselves in. The process of identifying victims killed in the Maui wildfires is underway as the number of dead is now up to 106 people and counting. Hawaii's Attorney General is moving forward with an investigation into what sparked the fire and why the state's emergency warning system failed to sound as the flames tore through entire communities. In the meantime, Republican State Representative Diamond Garcia tells me that he is calling on the state legislature to open its own investigation to ensure that this sort of tragedy never happens again. Plus, he also takes issue with the narrative that many of his Democrat lawmaker colleagues in the state are pushing.
To, say that global warming and climate change is the reason for hundreds of deaths is not acceptable. And as a state representative who has family on that island, that is just very disheartening.
So far, only 2 victims have been named and authorities have identified 3 more, but are waiting to notify next of kin before releasing those names. A portable morgue unit arrived about 24 hours ago with 22 tons of supplies and equipment to help in the victim identification and processing effort. Well, starting today, Mike Lindell and a collection of conservative heavyweights are meeting in Springfield, Missouri to discuss what they consider to be the country's flawed election system. Lindell's 2-day election summit will wrap up with the MyPillow CEO solution for fixing America's elections. Lindell has been critical of the 2020 election and what he believes were compromised voting machines. The list of presenters at this year's event, which is about to get underway here shortly, includes former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, along with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Steve Bannon and General Mike Flynn. Coming up a little bit later in the show, Rav's Harry on the Highway, my guy, joins us live from that summit with an update. Can't wait to see Harry. All right, let's get back to the rest of the crew, guys. A lot happening around the country today, and I'll keep you updated on all of it.
Yeah, thanks as always, Terrance. Yeah, looking forward to seeing good old Harry. He's in good spirits, and he's going to share a moment of faith with us. So looking forward to that. All right, reaction continuing today over what has become, let's just say it, the biggest political witch hunt in American history.
No doubt. We're, of course, talking about the left and the Uniparty's ongoing effort to keep President Trump from being elected and therefore stopping the American people, stopping you from having a voice.
Yeah, District Attorney Fani Willis wants to do this now. Take a look.
We do want to move this case along, and so we will be asking for a proposed order that occurs a trial date within the next 6 months.
Yeah.
But if you were watching American Sunrise yesterday morning at this time, we heard something different from Trump's 2016 campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. Watch.
This is never getting to trial. Let's just be very honest with you.
Never gonna go to trial.
Yeah. Well, let's see what Georgia resident and longtime Trump advisor Bruce Lavelle thinks of all of this. Bruce, will Trump and his defendants get a fair trial in Fulton County? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to have to, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to have to go with Corey. I don't see this ever getting to trial. Remember, I'm right here at my Atlanta home in Fulton County. This is where I'm at. And I've been here since 1988. I have a pulse for this county, this state, and I don't believe it's going to go that far. I know she knows it also. I actually wrote an op-ed about her and Alvin Bragg, as well as Letitia James and many others across the country that have this. They go out and recruit. I call it recruiting woke warriors, and she's part of that. And she knows it. You didn't see the confidence. Also, real quick, guys, you have to understand something about Atlanta. I actually tweeted this. We actually were the city that landed the World Olympics in '96. I was actually on that steering committee with Maynard Jackson and many other great leaders. If you notice on her midnight press conference, if you notice that, you always have to watch the leadership that corral around this person. All the who's who, especially, watch this, Black established business leaders, as myself, many of my colleagues, I'm the one that's crazy enough to come forward. A lot of them do not condone this whatsoever. They don't want any more black clouds, especially when we went through the riots 2 years ago. We went through the lockdown, and they don't need and they don't want any more dark clouds. Because remember, Keisha Lance Bottom was a failed mayor of the city of Atlanta, which encompasses Fulton County. She quit after her first term. No mayor has ever done that in the history of Atlanta. That tells you the culture and what's brewing. Also, the crime is way, way up. big time. I'm telling you, a lot of folks don't want to go downtown. I'm not exaggerating. You saw they went in there and played politics and denied Bill White's initiative to bring in Buckhead Police Department to have its own, just like Brookhaven and other cities around here. So you got to understand that with all her resources and everything she's using, watch this, on the taxpayer's dime, to go after President Trump on a phone call, and many of these other people who were just, wanting to protest and exercise their First Amendment right to say, hey, I don't agree with this. So I think what people don't understand is the real meat in this. I know there's a lot of emotions on this. I always said, if I panic, then you need to panic. I am totally at calm about all of this. I understand the moving parts about this. And Sheriff Labatt, if he gets to watch this, he's a failed sheriff. His jail is literally overrun. But Rob Pitts is the commissioner chair of Fulton County. 3 days ago, he went in a press conference and called out Fani Willis and the solicitors to get these people prosecuted because all their resources are being used for this witch hunt. So what it's doing, it's hurting the city and the county tremendously. So if you have a Democrat chair that stands up against you and pushing against this, will tell you. And real quick, they want to propose a $1.6 billion tax increase to build a new jail. This is all going on right now. And I have to put this on the back of Fani Willis. I'm sorry. She is putting all the money and resources in this, and it's killing the city.
Well, and not only that, Bruce, but that she was very adamant and very forceful and public about the fact that she was looking to get Trump. I mean, she kind of ran on this. And now we have a situation where the mugshot looks like it's going to happen. It looks like there could be, if it ever does go to trial, could be cameras in the courtroom and all of this. I mean, this has more of a public spectacle to it all. What do you make of Fani Willis's role in this, and how you see all of that aspect play out? I'm also curious about the judge in this case and how that might affect things.
Well, she's doing what she's told. I mean, she's not. You have to understand something, guys, and remember this, too. We can take Zuckerberg, for example, in terms of what he did here in Atlanta with spending $400+ million and going into third-party agreements, which is what Brad Ratzenberger did to allow designated drop boxes in the 4 largest urban counties in Atlanta: Gwinnett, Clayton, Fulton, DeKalb. That tells you right there. That's your voting block right there. But who is the predominantly more dense voters there? Democrats. So they did this strategically across the country. Also, we hear the word Soros-funded DAs, whatever. It's not just Soros. There's many others like him that have funded these particular DAs. And look, if you look around in Oakland, LA, DC, Seattle, you look around the country, look at the makeup of the particular DA that they're getting behind. Listen, guys, I've been in politics since I was 18. I worked for Reagan. DA, district attorneys, if they raise $100,000, they're lucky. The popular governors and all that get all the big campaign coffers. I say this to say, to have a DA having millions of dollars in their campaign coffers across these cities, and you look where the money goes, this tells you right there who the real puppeteers are in trying to control these particular DAs. And they use them specifically to weaponize folks that they don't care for. Now, watch this real quick. We see that what they've done to President Trump. Now, we could spend all day and we can go down the list and pick a city council member, a commission member, a state house member, the ones that don't get the attention that we're talking on this great show here. So just imagine all of the folks that didn't have a voice or a platform like President Trump. This has been going on for many years. So I always said that President Trump's election will be the great awakening. I know it's a little bumpy right now for what we went through, but I really believe a lot of these things happen for a reason. That's why I'm very calm about it and very optimistic.
And to that point, and I'm sorry we're short on time, but President Trump said he's ready to strike back, and his strategy to stop this prosecution is to prove that there really is and has been election rigging, it's easy for me to say, happening since 2020. And, he actually posted something on Truth Social about this. Last 30 seconds to you on this. Are we finally going to know the truth?
Well, we're going to get a piece of it because you remember going through a campaign, you don't reveal all your cards. All the politicos know that. But number 2, real quick, Miranda, just to make this point, Brian Kemp and all the constitutional leaders, AG's office, and everyone, remember, they came up with a prosecutorial whatever board that was supposed to be this oversight. They're stalling that real quick. if the governor and everyone sit and watch this happen, it's like me as a neighbor, Dr. G, and I look out the window to see someone robbing your home, and I sit and don't say a word. Right. This is what's going on right now. This affects all of us American citizens, that to see this type of behavior go down.
No doubt. Bruce Lavelle, thank you so much for being here. Coming up, Chris Christie now bumping out DeSantis in one state. Could Ron's days in this primary be numbered?
Держитесь.
And host of Law and Border, Ben Bergquam, joins us and will bring us some explosive new video showing us the real behind the scenes happening in Ukraine. Those stories and much more coming up right here on American Sunrise.
These are politicized persecutions through prosecution. And I say this as somebody who's running in some polls third, in some polls like today, second. It would be a lot easier for me if Donald Trump were not in this primary. But that is not how I want to win this election.
And that was presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy, as you just heard, reacting to Trump's recent indictment. Again, his fourth this year.
And that's where we want to welcome back David Brody in Washington, D.C. and Terrance Bates in Denver. Good to see you guys again.
And those of you at home, grab your coffee. We've got a lot coming your way, and join in on the conversation. We're on social media, and we want to hear your voice. David, what is your reaction to what Vivek had to say?
Well, I've got quite a bit to say, but I'll try to do the Reader's Digest version, which is about 30 seconds, I guess, for me.
Do they still make Reader's Digest?
Oh, gosh, did I just, a boomer reference? Did I just literally date myself? Anyhow, my bad.
Yes, you did.
It's all right. It's wisdom, David. You just have a lot of wisdom.
A lot of wisdom.
That's what it is. Yeah, Terrance, thanks for confirming it, by the way. But yeah, look, here's the deal on Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's start with the good. He mentions Donald Trump's name when it comes to the fact that Trump is being persecuted and it's a witch hunt and everything. All the other candidates, including DeSantis, they'll never mention his name. They'll never really talk about Trump. They'll just say, you know, the situation that's happening is really troublesome. You know, blah, blah, blah. Give me a freaking break. Say his name. Hashtag say his name. I mean, let's just do this. And Vivek Ramaswamy does a good job at that. Now, having said that, why are you in the race? I mean, okay, I get it. You want to be Treasury Secretary, I guess, or something along those lines. Fine, knock yourself out. That's what you're really playing for, because you're not going to win the nomination. So I guess it's a little bit frustrating that if you're really so on board with Trump, well, then be on board with Trump. But at this point, I think what he really wants is a cabinet position, and I think that's what he's angling for.
Boy, you better preach.
Right about that.
You better preach. You have said it all, my friend. You have said it all. And here's another thing to kind of consider. This whole sentiment that we just heard from Ramaswamy isn't new. He has said that repeatedly. It's always, oh, yeah, it would be a lot easier for me if Trump wasn't in the race, but he is in the race. And so at this point, it's almost like campaign rhetoric. It seems that Vivek is basically hitching his wagon to the Trump train and hoping that the Trump train drives him into a cabinet position or into maybe even a vice presidential position. And we shall see if, in fact, that happens.
Yeah, I feel like when Vivek finally gets the position he wants in the Trump department, it's not going to be like, and the new transportation secretary is. It's going to be like, and the new transportation secretary is Vivek Ramaswamy. Like everyone is going to know.
I'd love to know what our audience thinks. But you bring up a good point. But it's kind of like walking this tightrope, right? Because you're trying to win over MAGA supporters, so you can't really attack Trump. But then how do you separate yourself from him without, offending Trump supporters? I mean, you do it just like he's doing it, frankly.
Yeah,
but then you're not running for president, going back to David.
Really, you're using the platform. And that to some people might be a little irritating, but, unfortunately it works. Who the heck is Vivek Ramaswamy? 2 years ago, you never heard the name. Today, he's become a household name. So what he's doing is working, whether we like his tactic or not. If it's a means to an end, people are going to use it, unfortunately, because I think ethically there's something a little off.
Well, Colin, who was on our team behind the scenes, you said household name, still struggling with all those syllables, but he's going to get it down.
I know.
He's going to get it down. All right, we still have a lot more coming your way. And what do you think about all this? Always weigh in with us on social media. We're on Getter, we're on Truth Social, you name it, we are here. We want to hear from you.
Coming up, we found Joe Biden. He just got back from vacation and he's finally emerged. What? We're going to show you, and that's next. I know you can't wait for that one.
He's here?
Wow, who wrote that tweet?
He's
back
here.
In a minute.
This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
And Welcome back, sunshine, to This American Sunrise. It's about 8:23 Eastern Time. Miranda Khan here, along with Dr. Gina in West Palm Beach, Florida, and David Brody joining us there in Washington, D.C., also known as Swampland.
Yes, and speaking of swamp, we found Crooked Joe.
What?
He finished his 371-day vacation
nice
on the beach, and his bike, since residency, and he's finally decided to talk about Hawaii now, days after declining to speak to reporters about the worst wildfire in U.S. history.
But instead of Hawaii and actually going there, Joe opted to go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where he offered these remarks as a means, to comfort the people of Maui who have literally lost everything.
Yeah.
FEMA also authorized one-time payments of $700 per household to folks who've been displaced, so they can do the immediate things of just taking care of medications and prescriptions that they so badly need.
Huh? What? So we're going to get to that amount here in just a moment. But why there? I mean, you have a major disaster on your hands, Joe, and you're off touting your Bidenomics plan, or should we say demonics. There we go.
There we go. Sounds like
one of our
it's demonic. That's why it's so hard to say. But that's how one of our viewers actually labeled it. So I want to give props to them for coming up with these nicknames. Yeah, I mean, David.
No, I mean,
the man.
All,
go ahead.
I don't even know what to say other than every time you guys run that video of Biden on the beach, I'm like in PTSD mode as it relates to, I don't want to see him shirtless ever again in my life. Number one.
No.
No, I mean, I just can't go there, but I can't unsee what I've already seen. But having said that, he said America is winning in that speech in Milwaukee. Literally, those are the words that came out of his mouth when he wasn't bungling all those other words. He said America is winning. That's like Germany in 1945 saying Germany is winning. I mean, it's ridiculous. Of course not. Look, you have 46% of Americans, a stat just came out, 46% of Americans that are unable to cover an emergency $400 bill month to month. So in other words, if your air conditioner breaks down, you got some plumbing situation, and you got a $400 bill, 46% of Americans cannot afford that. Now, that's how bad it is in America under Joe Biden. But don't worry, ladies, America is winning.
Yeah. And I just, that image of seeing him on the beach, relaxing while people are in the ocean.
Yeah.
Because they have nowhere else to go. We talked to someone, the pastor the other day, who said he knew a woman who was standing in the ocean for 2 days while this man spent 371 days on vacation. How you do that, I don't get it. But going back to that dollar amount, $700, Joe mentioned. That's a very interesting number because, as we mentioned just yesterday on this very show, even CNN is reporting that inflation has caused American families to spend $709 more per month than 2 years ago. So I guess that means the Hawaii residents will only be $9 in the hole.
I'm sure they're excited.
Oh,
I mean, what?
I mean, it's insulting. At a certain point, it's just insulting. And, don't forget that when Joe Biden was on his 71st day of vacation on the beach the other day when all of this happened in Hawaii, his comment to reporters who inquired about that, remember, they're the voice of the American people. These aren't just, that's what the press corps is supposed to be. His comment to you, the American people, was that he had no comment on what had happened in Colorado and Hawaii. And so it's just, it's very upsetting to see someone who's literally, there's no humanitarian in there. There's nobody in there that has
soul.
A heart.
No, he doesn't have a soul.
Well, and the thing is, ladies, also, let's remember, he says he and Jill are going to go over to Maui once it settles down a little bit. Give me a break. You can figure it out from a Secret Service standpoint and a resource standpoint. If you can't walk and chew gum at the same time, then he shouldn't be president, and we need new government employees, which is, shock. We need new government employees.
there are these little things called helicopters. So you take a plane to the airport and then you go over in a helicopter.
Exactly.
Exactly. And right now, FEMA has it all shut down anyway. They can't even get volunteers who want to get Bibles and food and all those kinds of necessities in and out. Can't even get in and out. They're having to go up on the beach and run it up real fast and then pull out really fast before they get caught. It's crazy.
It is crazy. But just the pure optics of it. That's what I think is very insulting. Like, he could at the very least, had said something, going back to your point, the day that it happened. No, he decided to go off and tout his Bidenomic plan.
Well, and speaking of optics, by the way, here's a transition to some great optics in the Mile High City. Terrance Bates back with us with news headlines sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
Topping your headlines, one of Hunter Biden's lawyers is looking to withdraw from the ongoing tax and gun cases against the president's son. In a court filing from Tuesday, senior lawyer Christopher Clark started the process of leaving the legal team on the grounds that he might be called to testify. At issue is that sweetheart plea deal offered to Hunter that would have been a slap on the wrist for those tax and federal felony gun charges. U.S. Attorney turned special counsel David Weiss says that his team and the Biden defense team are at an impasse related to the retooled plea agreement. According to Tuesday's court filing, quote, it appears that the negotiation and drafting of the plea agreement and diversion agreement will be contested, and Mr. Clark is a precipient witness to those issues, hence his withdrawal. Another black eye for the FBI this morning is former agent Charles McGonigal pleads guilty to conspiracy and admits that he worked for Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska. The 55-year-old says that he was bought off, to find negative information on another Russian, Vladimir Pananin, in order to get Pananin put on the U.S. sanctions list. Now, mind you, all of this was happening in 2021 while Deripaska was paying McGonigal for these services and on the U.S. sanctions list himself. McGonigal previously pleaded guilty to 4 charges, including sanctions violations and money laundering, but he reached a deal to only plead guilty to conspiracy. He's set to be sentenced in December. The conspiracy charge, by the way, carries a prison sentence of up to 5 years. That's a quick check of your headlines brought to you by AMAC.
All right. We were looking at the Getter chat, while you were reading your headlines there, and thank you so much, Terrance. And a lot of people weighing in about this money that Joe is supposedly going to be giving, $700 to these family members, which, as you said, David, it's insulting. And they mentioned illegal immigrants. Sarah Pham said this, many Maui residents only $700. Illegal immigrants get $500 a night plus free hotel.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. All right, coming up, Harry on the Highway is here with an update on his wild, wild ride.
Looking forward to that. Ooh, and also coming up, stunning new video from Ukraine where our very own Ben Barquam is on the ground in the middle of that war zone. We will show you coming up, and Oscar as well, coming up.
Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. I'm David Brody in Washington, D.C. Hey, look, there's been so much going on in Ukraine. We talk about the funding issue, and we'll talk about that ad nauseum. But, of course, there is such a danger over there in a war zone. And Real America's Voice and our great Ben Berquam and Oscar L. Blue Ramirez got some amazing video of this medic under attack as he's en route to kind of figure out what's going on in the war zone there in Ukraine to help folks over there. Have a look at this.
Держитесь.
Just amazing video, and of course, there's so much more like that. Let's bring in Ben and Oscar from now Warsaw, Poland. Guys, that video we saw there, maybe kind of give us some context to it, set it up, and tell us more about your trek through Europe, and now you're in Warsaw, Poland.
Well, we just got out of Ukraine. We were there for 6 days, and it's really shocking. It's the first time I've been in a war zone, and the moral of the story is the people, the citizens there are getting hammered, especially on the eastern side of the country. Regardless of what you think about the money, the corruption, there's no question about it. There's corruption in the country. We talk about how much money should America be sending money, especially when you have things like what's going on the border or what's happening in Maui, and obviously there's corruption. I think the bigger corruption is what's coming out of Washington, D.C., but the point of what I saw was the suffering that we saw of the citizens. And in this case, that video you just saw, that was a medic who was trying to render aid to people that had already gotten hit by a missile that came in from Russia. He ended up getting hit by a missile and then continued to render aid. But they're on the front lines of this thing. The hospitals are out of money. The police are out of money. They're all getting attacked, and it's the citizens that end up paying the price. And it's the same thing in America. It's the oligarchs and the elite that run the show, and it's the citizens that end up getting screwed. It's the same thing everywhere. Oscar?
Yeah.
Well, at the place that we stayed at, there was complete, devastation, continuous explosions, artillery every day, day in, day out. And I cannot bear to witness how the families and the children and the PTSD that they're suffering. They're telling us that children, they cannot go to sleep. 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they're waking up to the alert of the sirens and also ultimately to thinking that they are going to be hit with a missile. It is just complete devastation. The ones that they are being, attacked the most is the middle-class families and the citizens.
Mm-hmm. We should point out that this coverage could not be possible without our good friends over at Patriot Mobile who are sponsoring this, and you're not going to see this anywhere else. So talk to us a little bit about Warsaw, Poland, why you're there, what you hope to see and accomplish and bring our viewers, guys.
Well, this is a combination. So we started the trip. The first week of it was showing the immigration disaster that's going on here in Europe. And it's the same disaster. It's the same organizations behind it. Now, Poland is actually one of those countries. We're actually flying out tomorrow. We'll be heading home. But Poland's one of the countries that actually has strong borders, that's secured its country and put its citizens first. And for that, it's being attacked by the United Nations. It's being attacked by the European Union. But Poland is really an example of what other countries should be doing. And then what when we get back, we're putting it all together and really connecting the dots from our southern border to Europe and then ultimately even into Ukraine and the war that's going on there.
And then the problems that are existing, the places that we visited, like France, that is kind of like a copy-paste of what it is Mexico with the UK. France is also being overrun by mass migration, and the mass migration that is leading to the UK. So they're using France as a trampoline into the UK. So it's kind of like exactly, it is not kind. It is exactly the same of what is happening to the United States and Mexico, and also the Netherlands that are being hijacked by environmentalists.
And then if you look at, we're looking at this footage now of the blown up tanks and the blown up buildings and the blown up lives. If you get down to the bottom of it, sometimes you go on trips to get answers to questions. I think on this case, I came home with even more questions than I began with. But there's no question about it. There are forces at work. Everything you see going on in Ukraine initially started because people wanted to make more profits. They wanted more control. And it ultimately comes down to good versus evil. And that's the battle we're in. We have to stand up. We're not good. It's only Christ through us that's good. But it's time for us to rely back on that, to invite Jesus back into our country and into the world and really stop these wars. I mean, again, it's evil versus good, and it's time for the good people to rise.
Ben, Oscar, appreciate your time. Stay safe. Thank you so very much. And you're right. It's all about God being on the throne. Guys, I appreciate it. And of course, our coverage is all through Patriot Mobile, and you can get free activation if you just go to that promo code RAV. That's all you need to do. Put in that promo code RAV at Patriot Mobile, and you will get free activation. Ladies in West Palm, back to you.
All right, thanks, David and Ben and Oscar. Amidst, all these global uncertainties like the Ukraine war, 19 cases in the U.S., recent events such as the one you're seeing unfold in Hawaii, they kind of highlight the need, I would say, to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
So we want to talk about this wellness company's, their new emergency kit. We mentioned it the other day. It's a groundbreaking solution for unexpected health challenges by incidents like we're seeing happen all over. It doesn't cover everything, but you know what? It's good to have. It really is.
Yeah, it's cool because this kit kind of surpasses the ordinary, offering ultimate protection against various things, actually, from anthrax and bites to COVID-19, plague, skin infections. In times like the recent Maui wildfires, it's crucial to be prepared because you just don't know what life's going to throw at you.
Yeah, so empower yourself with the Wellness Company Emergency Kit. You can see it right there. It is your readiness tool to confront unforeseen situations, again, head on. So be prepared for anyone. It can happen. You need to be prepared. Yeah. I mean, and they have all sorts of things. I mean, things if you've had COVID, you don't want to get back to your normal self, you can find it with the Wellness Company. And if you use that RAV promo code, guess what? You're going to save 10%.
Yeah,
off.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
All right. And I want to say too on this, if you're taking this and then you have an emergency, you have both things. It's not just, it's not just preventative. For things like the new COVID strain, for example. Yeah. It's also, treatment for, because there's a Z-Pack involved, so that's an antibiotic. There's ivermectin. So these kits, it will give you a lot of peace of mind, for sure.
For sure, because health is everything, but so are prayers. And thanks to yours, we are happy to report one of our RAV family members' prayers have been answered, and he is now back on the road.
So let's bring in the one and only Harry on the highway. He joins us now live, where a big event is kicking off today in my birthplace, Springfield, Missouri. Yes, I was actually born in Springfield.
I love that.
And that's an area that Miranda and I know quite well, being both Midwestern girls.
That's right. So, Harry, it is so good to see your beautiful face just lighting up this morning. Give us an update on just how you're feeling and what brings you out there to where Gina was born, Springfield, Missouri.
Springfield, Missouri. Good morning, ladies. Yeah, I feel like a rock star. This was a 2-year journey, as most of the RAV viewers know. Going from the first operation, finding out you got colon cancer, getting it out of you, and then follow up a year later to say, hey, the tumor's back, and you go through the operation all over again, and then spent a year wearing a colostomy bag, which was, took me off the road for a good portion of the time. So it's been a journey, a 2-year journey, but I am back and feeling great. And thank you to all the RAV viewers for the prayers.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. Harry, I don't know what they did to you, but you are looking more handsome, I have to say, than ever. I'm a 33 years married woman, but if there's a handsome man, I can still appreciate that, and hubby's okay with it. Harry, we just started a new segment here on American Sunrise called Moment of Faith. This is basically us sharing stories in Scripture with our viewers that serve as a reminder that God is always in the midst of all we are doing. Can you share what that moment was for you and this most recent experience for you?
I mean, God was with me the whole way. God was holding my surgeon's hands. I prayed every day because, people take every day for granted. People take life for granted. And every day I wake up, including this morning, I look outside and I say, thank you, Jesus, for giving me another day on this life, because you don't know when it could be taken away. And it's scary, certainly when they put you under, and you wonder, hey, am I going to wake up after this operation? Because they give you all the the things that could go wrong, you know. So God's right by me right now and brought me through this journey, and hopefully will keep me on this planet till I'm in my 90s.
Yeah, and so is your beautiful daughter, which
know.
congratulations. She just graduated, and again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And our prayers extended to MAGA Pilot this morning, also in the chat, who's having a surgery as well. For our moment of faith today, I want to share this and really pray over it together as for Harry and for all of our audience members. And it goes a little something like this. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. For I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear. I will help you. Exactly what Harry said. That's amazing. He said he's right beside me. He held the surgeon's hands. That's Isaiah chapter 41, verses 10 through 13. And it holds true every single day.
It does. Harry, you know, I just want to mention this. You know, Zen Master, who is a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, of course, the owner of Real America's Voice. This just kind of lets you know what kind of guy he is. He was sending you Bible verses throughout this entire journey and praying for you and with you.
100%. Me and Zen Master go back almost 30 years. And every day, there wasn't a day that Rob did not call me and ask me, I'm just checking in, how you feeling? I wake up, you know, from surgery, he's calling. I mean, he's a brother. He's my best friend. You know, he really is. And he did a lot to get me through this, because you don't know what to expect, right? And constantly worrying about family and what if. But we
and I have
prayed.
to say, he really does that for all of us.
He does.
You know, even
really
when we're
does.
not in tragedy, but when we are, we all have storms in our lives. I'm always getting scripture from him, sweet notes of faith, prayers. He'll stop to call. I honestly don't know how he has time to do it, because there are a lot of us. You know, people only see a few of us on set, but for every one of us, there's probably 20 people back there making all this happen. And it really is amazing how he does that. And he'll come to me and say, hey, you know, got a guy in the studio back in Denver. He's going through this. Gina, will you pray for him? You know, he does that, and it really is a family that I think we've all drawn together through your experience and through other challenges in our own lives over the last few weeks and months, maybe more than ever.
And I hope that just helps people right now, that moment of faith. This is just, again, to serve as a reminder, we're all going through something, but don't give up. God is always working. We only have a few seconds left, Harry, but we were talking about you being in Springfield, Missouri. There's this big summit going on today. We're going to be sharing that coverage throughout the day here on Real America's Voice. And all of our programming. So real quickly, tell us what's going on.
Well, behind me is the stage, which is going to light up at 9 o'clock Eastern, Mike Lindell's Election Summit. And we'll be broadcasting live the War Room all day for the morning show and evening show. And he's got some great guests and stuff. So it's going to be a 2-day packed event, and can't wait for it to happen. And can't wait to get back to the next venture next week, wherever we're going to be on the road.
Love it. Harry on the highway. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, ladies. I'll see you soon. I think 2 weeks I'll be down in West Palm. Get ready.
Ooh, yes, we might even be doing some traveling together. We're getting excited about that, Harry. We love you so much, and our whole audience loves you.
All right, still ahead in our next hour of Sunrise, which is coming up. We're hopefully going to hear some more from them. Maybe we can talk to Steve Bannon, but Stay Awake, Not Woke story coming up that you are not going to want to miss. It's unbelievable how conservatives are being attacked left and right for just trying to protect our kids. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back, sunshine. Hope your morning is going well. I'm Miranda Khan, along with Dr. Gina, and we are here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We want to bring back our friends, David Brody and D.C., as well as Terrance Bates and Denver, and we just can't wait to get your reaction to this next story, because I would say this is just another prime example of why it's important to stay awake, not woke.
Stay Awake, Not Woke, sponsored by Beard Vet Coffee, beardvet.com. Use promo code RAP for your 10% off.
And we definitely need it this morning. It's only Wednesday. All right. But this will wake you up. So check out this fake headline, guys, from a leftist outlet in North Carolina that was upset that people are standing up against the radical trans mafia. It says, quote, Freedom House Church leader heads harassment campaign, spreads misinformation. House of Hate, how Penny Maxwell is damaging to the Charlotte community. Yeah.
Well, as it turns out, the real story, as we learned yesterday at 4 p.m. from Penny Maxwell herself, is that this bar that she was being called an extremist for protesting was doing this.
They're giving dollar bills and putting them in this man who's had butt augmentation. And if you go look at this strippers, look, he's just getting dollar bills from them. If you look at his page, the most vile and disgusting stuff is on his page. It is unbelievable. And look, taking money, that child can't even be much over a year old.
Well, thanks to that pastor, it's now shut down. So, again, why is the left so, I can't wrap my head around this, so persistent about putting children in environments that are clearly not designed for kids? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, when you have no standards and you are going by your own personal standards, and what works today doesn't work tomorrow, and then you change, then you do this stuff. I mean, when you don't have God in your life, and when you don't have those standards, then anything goes. It's moral relativism, and where does it end? And this is what you get. But that headline is really interesting. It talked about harassment and talked about spreading misinformation. These are the buzzwords. Words matter. Language matters, and this is what the left does. Their bias is not just in the coverage and the story selection, but it's in the headlines. It's even obviously in the words they write in the story. So, for example, one of the paragraphs talked about how she was a little out of control because as a pastor, they were asking for more than just tithing. They thought that people should do a little bit more than tithing. Well, guess what? If you've ever been to church, that's what they talk about all the time. They say, look, you do your tithing, but if you can give a little extra this month, that would be great because we have X, Y, and Z to do. That's normal stuff. But the left doesn't understand normal. They understand abnormal.
And the bigger concern here is that parents are bringing their kids to these sorts of events. We saw a baby there, a toddler in the audience. And in my mind, it raises questions about what's happening within that home. If you think that that sort of environment is appropriate for your child, particularly at that age, then it seems to me that a reasonable question is what's happening behind closed doors in your house? What kinds of things are you exposing your child to within your house that potentially could harm that child's safety and harm that child's well-being?
Yeah, and that wasn't even the most disturbing part. There was another part where she showed this woman dancing on a pole, or I guess it was a trans person dancing on a pole, holding a baby. No, was it a woman?
No, it was a woman.
Okay.
But it was a little confusing. But her butt, it was a woman that was on a pole, and her buttocks were exposed,
and she was like
she had like a toddler in between her. I mean,
between her and the pole, dancing on the pole.
It's just an image you just don't want to see.
The fact that we have to describe it like that, I think it's clear that it was disturbing, it was inappropriate, and needs to be addressed. And I think that's the bottom line, ladies. And again, not to be critical, but the bottom line is we're talking about kids being exposed to this sort of to this sort of environment, and it's just not healthy for any child. I think any reasonable American would agree.
And the thing is that if you're going to affect society, you got to get to the next generation, and that's the play. This is a generational issue, and they want to go generation after generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. Destroying these children is absolutely disgusting. Coming up, President Trump being prosecuted for questioning the 2020 election. But we're going to show you some examples of Democrats who already did this, and nobody seems to have a problem with that.
Yeah, quite a few. And then we have a former federal prosecutor here to tell us what Trump's strategy should be to fight the feds. All of that coming up. We'll be right back.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
How can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's a real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Russia interfered with our election, attacked our democracy for the sole purpose of artificially placing someone at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They were successful.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I want to welcome back David Brody. David, that was just one of 24 minutes of Democrats denying election results. In fact, every single Democrat president, in fact, since 1977, has questioned the legitimacy of U.S. elections. This, according to the Republican National Committee. So why do so many people suddenly seem not to care when a Democrat says something like that, and yet if you even as much associate with Trump or ask for a phone number, you could be charged?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and I think there's a simple answer. We not only have a two-tiered system of justice, we have a two-tiered media system that is clearly prejudiced against conservative, patriotic Americans who are independent and critical thinkers. And that is a long line, but it's true. I mean, I didn't say conservative Americans because there are a lot of conservative Americans that are also sheep in this country that will just go along with whatever it is, whatever the company line is. But there are independent thinkers, the MAGA audience, the patriotic audience, this audience that understands the real deal. And, Miranda, you talk about the 24 minutes of videotape. And, of course, I'm sure they could string together a whole lot more. But you're right. This has been going on for a very long time. Here's one instance well, there's so many instances. But let me just bring up 2004. I mean, John Kerry lost to George W. Bush. But at the time, Democrats on the far left, Howard Dean of the Democratic National Committee, all of the big top Democrats were not only complaining, but saying that the election was rigged and stolen in Ohio. They questioned the voting machines. There was a documentary made on it, Miranda. HBO, we should do this in the show tomorrow. I've got the clips.
We should.
I've got the evidence. I've got the tape. I've got the receipts.
You've got the proof. You've got the truth.
I got it. Now I feel like Gotti. But anyhow, look, there was a documentary put out by HBO called Hacking Democracy. It was nominated for an Emmy to expose some of the problems with voting machines and how the election is not secure in America. That was in 2004 by HBO, the liberals. And that got an Emmy Award, or a nomination for an Emmy Award. But Donald Trump and others want to talk about that now, and no, you're thrown in jail. And that's the difference, Miranda.
That is the difference. And yeah, we should definitely look for those clips. See, I told you, this man is wise. He knows his history. Hopefully we can share some of that with you tomorrow. Still ahead, though, here on this edition of American Sunrise, we're going to check in with the former federal prosecutor who is running for Missouri Attorney General, Will Scharf. He's here to break down the Trump indictments and lay out the strategy for Trump to come out victorious. That's next.
I got the votes, but we won't know exactly how many because of how they cheated. I did win my election. I just didn't get to have the job. We were robbed of an election.
A Georgia Democrat can deny an election, but if your name is Trump or if you support him, well, life isn't so peachy. Former federal prosecutor and candidate for Attorney General for Missouri, Will Scharf, weighs in.
And one brand new presidential candidate is beating Trump and Biden, but not in the polls. They're setting a record for the most negative campaign, as we'll show you.
Provider Planned Parenthood could be on the hook to repay $17 million in Medicaid payments. Ahead on this second hour of American Sunrise, find out which state is looking to collect from the controversial group. We've got your back as you start your day.
Articulating what the majority of Americans feel today, and I really appreciate that you do.
Y'all tell the truth
guys are our voice.
We watch every morning while getting ready for work.
And good morning, sunshine. I'm Miranda Khan, along with Dr. Gina Loudon, and we are coming to you live from West Palm Beach. It's the second hour already.
Right. Let's bring in David Brody, who's joining us too. There you are, David.
Nice tie. Like how we coordinated there.
Good makeup. Good makeup this morning.
Yeah.
Right. Wearing yellow, both of us, Miranda. Sorry, Gina.
Yeah. We're thinking.
Didn't get the memo. All right, new this morning, Florida governor and struggling presidential candidate Ron DeSantis has reacted to Trump's latest indictment. Let's watch a little.
So I haven't had a chance to read it all, but I will tell you is Atlanta has huge problems with crime right now. And there has been an approach to crime which has been less than exacting. I think there have been criminals that have let out that shouldn't have been let out. And so they're now doing an inordinate amount of resources to try to shoehorn this contest over the 2020 election into a RICO statute, which was really designed to be able to go after organized crime, not necessarily to go after political activity.
And kind of echoing the sentiment that we heard from, though, Bruce Lavelle, which was in our first hour of American Sunrise, talking about the crime there in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where he lives. But DeSantis went on to talk about his campaign. He never mentioned Trump's name. He said he, as you heard, didn't even read the indictment, and he spent another couple of minutes talking about his favorite subject, and that is himself. I would say the whole message, which he struggles with constantly, is messaging. He's just not resonating there with voters.
You know, it really is a wonder how he was governor for as long as he was here in Florida, and really did seem to read the audience then. He really did seem to have his finger on the pulse of what MAGA folks and what conservatives wanted here in Florida. And so it's almost as if God removed his hand from him. I'm not saying God removed his hand from him completely, but at least in terms of maybe anointing him for this office. Maybe God anointed him for governor and just isn't anointing. I don't know how else to explain
Did you
such
notice,
a distinct personality reprieve.
Right, and I don't know if you picked up on this, David, but you said was governor. He's still pseudo-governor, but you said that maybe that was like a little Freudian slip there. But David?
Yeah. No, that's true. And here, Miranda, you picked up on a really interesting point. And this idea that he's just kind of like the messaging, it's a talking points candidacy. I mean, that's in essence what it's become, a talking points candidacy. And then you just wonder, like, are you really sabotaging not just 2024, but 2028 at this point? I mean, you have to wonder, like, he's just not ingratiating himself at all to the MAGA audience at all. And he's really distancing himself from that situation. He's trying to have it both ways. Like the policy, he thinks the policy is going to be enough, but it's not just the policy. It's the fire and brimstone. It's the fight. It's the I'm going to stand with Trump. I'm going to stand. Like people want to see that and not just see it, but feel it and believe it. And DeSantis is not giving that, feeling at all to the base. And that's been, I think, his inherent problem. It can't just be policy and talking points. It's not going to work.
Well, you got to look at who his consultant is. His consultant is Jeff Rowe.
Right.
I'm from Missouri. I know Jeff Rowe well. I looked at Jeff's bio the other day on some social media. I think it was X, Twitter, whatever it is, and it said "kiss of death." Ooh. And I thought, wow, you're bragging. I mean, Jeff, I know Jeff, but I was just very surprised.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about DeSantis because it appears that he is continuing to slip in the polls. But for right now.
All right. Well, right now, let's get to Denver to get some headlines from the Big T Bates. Terrance, what's cracking?
Well, we're talking about President Trump again, of course, having a bit of a catharsis on Truth Social as he pushes back against the latest indictment against him out of Fulton County, Georgia. While preparing to turn himself into authorities in the Atlanta area sometime between now and next Friday, the 45th president taking to Truth Social writing, "Can you believe it? This failed district attorney from Atlanta, Fani Willis, where murders and violent crime soars daily to new record highs, is charging me with 2020 presidential election interference no, Fanny, the only election interference was done by those that rigged and stole the election. In a separate post, he writes, all of these Biden administration bogus trials and cases, including the locals, should be brought after the 2024 presidential election. What they have done is already election interference, but if the trials are held before the election, then it would be interference on a scale never seen in our country before. Any trial involving President Trump will likely be a spectacle, but this Georgia racketeering case involving the former president and 18 co-defendants is expected to be a circus, from the media to finding jurors to logistics of the courtroom. On Tuesday, lawyers for former Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows filed a motion to transfer his case from state to federal court. They argue the actions that he took were in service to his role in the White House. Legal experts say that argument sets the stage for a constitutional claim that he is immune from prosecution due to his duties as chief of staff. As for President Trump, he now will have to defend himself against 13 new felony charges in addition to the 3 other criminal cases against him. That's a quick check of your headlines. Of course, we'll have more headlines coming your way here in just a little bit. But guys, I know you've got a pretty big interview coming up.
Yep. Well, guys, if it ever was, it is time to drain the swamp.
Oh, yeah. Waiting for that dramatic pause. That's what we'll wait for it. There it is. There we go.
I can sing. I'll whistle.
You whistle along with it. All right. Speaking of Drain the Swamp, this is brought to you by Sea of Mud. And again, if you use that special promo code RAV1776, you will save 15% off of these amazing T-shirts. You want to go ahead and take a look at these. Are some of their newest ones right here. I like this olive green. This one says, "This is the government the founders warned us about."
This says, "I identify as non-binary."
Oh, I love that. They're so clever. They're so clever.
So
All
fun.
right. Well, we began with a report from our good old friends over at Just the News. President Trump and 18 of his allies, like former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, now aiming to move charges from Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis's Georgia election case to federal court and ask for a dismissal.
Yes, so let's check in with former federal prosecutor and candidate for Attorney General in Missouri, my home state, Will Scharf. Will, it's so good to have you. Will, is that a good tactic, though, to get the charges moved out of Fulton County, Georgia, and over to federal court?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I would do, and I would expect that President Trump's team is looking at potentially doing the same for him. I mean, the last thing you want is Fannie Willis on her home turf in front of God knows what Georgia state judge, being able to run, as you said before the break, just an absolute circus of a trial on these circus-like charges. So I think Meadows' move is predictable and the right move for him, and we'll see how President Trump and his legal team handle things in the days ahead.
I would also think, Will, that Meadows has a strong case here. Would you not think so? I mean, he's working in a federal city. It's Washington, D.C. It's federal. He's making phone calls from Washington, D.C. I mean, he's doing his job as chief of staff in Washington, D.C. I mean, this just seems like a no-brainer.
Well, and more than that, with respect to President Trump himself, I think we're going to have to litigate very serious issues of presidential immunity here. I mean, the idea that a president can be held criminally liable after the fact for acts that he undertook in office within, I would say, the outer ambit of his presidential authority and presidential duties. It's certainly the first time in history that would have occurred. And it's certainly a novel position for a former president to be in. So I expect we'll be hearing a lot about potential immunity arguments, changes of venue, any number of other legal defenses to this case in the coming days and weeks.
But the bottom line is, and I just got to ask you, regardless of where it is, can Trump and his co-defendants actually get a fair trial?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, not
right?
just with this case, but with all of the cases that have been brought against him. When you have Jack Smith ramming through an indictment in Washington, D.C., where 97% of the jury pool voted for Joe Biden, I mean, what kind of a fair trial is that? And I think that's why President Trump's argument to change venue in those cases makes so much sense and is so valid. But more than that, what we're seeing here is the politicization of prosecution. President Trump is not being indicted. He's not being prosecuted for anything that he did. He's being prosecuted for who he is and what he stands for. And that's really, when we talk about a banana republic, when we talk about the fall of the rule of law, that's really what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm. Well, Miranda and I on our shows have been talking about this. Georgia has a new law that just went into effect starting on October 1st. This new Georgia law has set up a new commission to investigate radical DAs, and they will start accepting complaints on October 1st. So I guess the question comes down to, could Fani Willis lose her job over this?
I would certainly hope so. I mean, she's spending an awful lot of time stringing together this 100-page absurd indictment against President Trump while murders and violent crime in her own jurisdiction are out of control. I mean, that speaks to the prioritization of the modern left. They're willing to allow untold numbers of victims of violent crime to go uncompensated, to not have their day in court, as long as they can move the political ball up the field. That's not the way I was trained to be a prosecutor. That's not the way prosecution is supposed to work. It's an abuse of our legal system and of our courts. So I hope Fani Willis loses her job. I hope someone takes a long, hard look at the way she's been conducting herself in her office, because maybe there's a ground to explore criminality on her part. That would be an interesting turn of events.
Will, a quick 30 seconds. We're running tight here, but I'm just curious. We had Corey Lewandowski on the show saying the other day that he didn't think this would go to trial. Alan Dershowitz thinks it will go to trial, and that Trump would even be convicted, but then it would be overturned. What's your view on some of this?
I think some or all of these cases are going to end up before the Supreme Court, and I think President Trump's legal defenses, to say nothing of his factual defenses, are going to be very strong and vigorous. Alan Dershowitz was a former professor of mine. I don't want to disagree with him publicly, but I think this is going straight to the Supreme Court, and I think President Trump will have his day there, if not at the trial court level.
Will, we have to go, unfortunately, but tell us about your campaign real quickly and how we can find you.
Sure. You can find us online at votesharf.com. Find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Truth Social, at Will Scharf. Conservatives all over the state of Missouri are fired up. They're angry about what's happening to their country and their state, and everywhere we go, we hear the same thing. But I am really excited for the road that we have ahead.
Nothing quite like a fired-up show-me-stater. All right, go get it, Will. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Will.
All right. Another instance of pro-lifers being targeted by law enforcement. This story will make your blood boil. You don't want to miss it. That's coming up next.
Welcome back to America Sunrise. Miranda and I here in West Palm Beach. David Brody out in Washington, D.C. and Terrance Bates in Colorado.
Hello, everyone. Colorado. Let's see when you say that.
Colorado versus the swamp, by the way. Colorado versus swamp. I'm going Colorado. 100%.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Get in while the getting's good. Come on.
I know. Why am I even bringing it
guys. I want to get your reaction to a story that has me pretty fired up, and I know it will you too. So I want you to take a look at this headline, because I know you, especially Gina, from our partners over at Just the News. So D.C. dealt more harshly with pro-life protesters than Black Lives Matter. I mean, how many more examples do we need? I feel like it's just like that's what this entire show is, examples of that we have a two-tiered justice system. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Your thoughts. And you're in D.C., David, so what do you think about this?
Well, it's horrific and it's horrible, and the facts bear it out. I mean, there have been 26 pro-lifers that have been arrested by the FBI, and let's be honest, these aren't just arrests like knock knock, here's a certified mail a certified mail saying, hey, could you appear in court, which is bad enough. This is FBI raids. I mean, this is guns with FBI agents with guns. Remember the father in Pennsylvania, father of 7, where his kids were woken up as the FBI banged down his door with guns saying, come on out. Are you kidding me? This is the America we live in today. But this is the America we live in today. And this is what's going on. 26 pro-lifers arrested in 2022 after the Dobbs decision. And then if you just go on, and I've got the stats here, let me just get you. Since last year, 85 attacks on pregnancy centers, 152 attacks on Catholic churches. And you show me, DOJ, Merrick Garland, where are the arrests? Where are the prosecutions? Nowhere to be found because you're too busy going after Trump. It's sad, it's despicable, and it's sickening, and it's happening in America today.
Well, further to that point, though, you mentioned the DOJ. They've labeled parents as terrorists and infiltrated churches, Catholic churches. I mean, clearly you can see what side of the fence they're on. Am I right, Terrance?
No, absolutely. And unfortunately, it is another reflection of this kind of two-tier justice that you hear so many people talk about, that justice is now being pursued based on political, what side of the political fence you fall on, as opposed to actual justice and law and order. And that's one of the concerns that so many people have. And that's one of the reasons that there's so many communities across this country that are looking at law enforcement with a side eye, because they don't know whether law enforcement agents and the Department of Justice, I guess, as a broader, from a broader perspective, is pursuing law and order, or if they're pursuing political policy and politically influenced agendas.
Mm-hmm. But doing good, doing the right thing, always ultimately works. Doing the wrong thing never does. And when you look at these cities, right, where no one was prosecuted after all of the horrible things went down and the riots and whatever, these cities are still falling apart, right? These cities, whole police departments are completely resigning, and they can't find replacements. You know, you can't get people to want to be police officers in these hellacious places. And so who's paying the price for that? The people who made the decisions, often the people who are victims to this, but by and large, they could rise up and make the decisions. Anybody can run for mayor, right? Anybody can run for state office. So they could rise up and make a difference. So the people who are being complacent and accepting lawlessness, the people who are making the lawlessness and all of the havoc, they're the ones who are paying this price, and it's not going to stop, because as long as you don't stand by the rule of law, which is what we've been talking about since Senate Bill 1080, remember that back when illegal immigration started, we said, but the rule of law, does anybody else remember that beginning of the Tea Party?
She definitely does. We do now, though. We're getting a whole history lesson here. I love this.
Well, but it's true. And you see that when you have lawlessness, it doesn't work in the long run for those who are putting it on our society. All right, coming up, we tracked down Crooked Joe. And no, he didn't go to Hawaii. In fact, he barely mentioned the Maui wildfires after saying no comment for days. But we'll show you where we did find Joe. You don't want to miss that. And it's next. Stick around.
Welcome back, sunshine. Hope you got enough coffee in you, getting around, getting your errands all done. Welcome back. Miranda Khan here, along with the lovely Dr. Gina Loudon. We're here in West Palm Beach, Florida. David Brody joining us in D.C. That was our crew. You could show them. We could show them, yeah, because we said we're a whole family here. We have a lot of people working behind the scenes.
Yes, we are.
You can see Zen Jr. over there working away. He just shows his hands. He's more of a behind the scenes guy, right?
Talk to the hands.
There he is. There he is. Okay. And I think
All
we
right.
see Andrew there. Okay.
Yeah.
And we found somebody else, didn't we? Yeah, we found Joe finally, right? Sleepy Joe. We actually found him.
I'm like looking at the shot. I'm like, wait, what? Who's Joe? All right. He returned from the he's easy to forget.
Yes.
Returned from the 371st day of his vacation on the beach, and he finally decided to talk about Hawaii and what happened there and the Maui wildfires days after declining to speak to reporters. And I wouldn't even say declining. He said he had no comment. He talked to them. He said he had no comment. Not God bless the people of Maui, not they're in our hearts, not certainly they're in our prayers. At least he wasn't lying. This was the worst wildfire in U.S. history. We haven't even found all the dead yet. And Joe had no comment for days.
And it's still climbing, David. I mean, 106 people. And I just, that image, I think that says it all. Here you have Biden sitting on the beach, and you have people, some of them, whom have been out in the water for days with nothing. No food,
why were
no
they
water,
in the water for
a house.
days? I missed that. Why were some people standing in the water for? I mean, I know that that's
they
where
had
they
nowhere to
ran
go. They had absolutely nowhere to go. They had lost everything. The siren system went down. You talked about it, David, when we were talking to that pastor. They're still trying to figure out what's going on with that. But yeah.
Well, it's ridiculous that Joe Biden had no comment, considering the fact that, that was the only thing he should not have said, and that's exactly what he said, no comment. Anyhow, speaking of comments, we have no Terrance Bates with the headlines. There's a lot of comments from Denver, and it's sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
Well, we're just moments away from the opening bell on Wall Street tolling. You can see the folks there cheering. That's Aon. They are the ones who are getting ready to lead us into the opening bell. Right now in pre-market action, it seems like all of the markets were down just a little bit, and we'll see just how much that changes here momentarily as we let the bell toll. Guys, if we can bring up the audio a little bit so we can hear that bell. I'm not hearing it in my IFD. There we go. So the bell tolled. The markets are now officially open, and it looks like the Dow Jones Industrial down about 0.1%. The NASDAQ looks like it's even at this particular point, actually just coming in down about 26 points or 0.26 points, and the S&P 500 down just under a point right now. Hopefully all of that will change here in short order as several earnings reports are going to be coming out over the next couple of days. In the meantime, Target is cutting its profits and sales expectations for the year. The announcement just came in earlier this morning as the company admits that backlash over its Pride merchandise is affecting the chain's bottom line. Target also blames inflation and the end of the student loan moratorium for lagging sales. The chain says while customers recently had a bit more money to spend, higher interest rates on credit cards will likely impact how much people are willing to spend for the rest of this year. Despite the less than positive profit expectations, Target's share price rose by 8% in pre-market trading this morning. We're now just days away from the Durban Accords, which is the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in the past 80 years. On August 22nd, BRICS nations, that would be Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are expected to announce the launch of a brand new international supercurrency that's fully backed by gold or other commodities. This is all part of their long-term plan to supplant the U.S. and the U.S. dollar as cornerstones of the global financial system. So, how can you protect your IRA or your 401k from the fallout from this landmark announcement? Well, it's simple. Diversify with gold, and the Birch Gold Group is here to give you more information about that. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty like what we're dealing with right now. So get your free information kit on gold IRAs and decide for yourself if a tax-sheltered retirement account backed by physical precious metals is right for you. Just text the word America to the number 989898 to get that information. There's a monumental shift happening among nations that control 1/3 of the nation or the world's GDP, and it all kicks off next week on August 22nd. So arm yourself with information to protect your retirement savings by texting the word America to the number 989898 and claiming your free information kit on gold from the Birch Gold Group. That's a quick check of your economic headlines.
Thanks so much, Terrance. Still a lot more coming our way here on American Sunrise.
Yeah, 2024 getting saucy. Ron DeSantis has now been overtaken by another candidate in the polls in an early primary state. And you will never guess who it is, but we're going to tell you. And that's up next. Back in a moment.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. Dr. Gina and I are here in sunny West Palm Beach, Florida. Terrance Bates joining us in Denver, Colorado, as well as David Brody in D.C. And this is always the time of the show where my stomach starts growling. I have to look at this red state barbecue beef rub. Terrance, you had the pork rub, beef rub, and I'm salivating.
Yeah, I've got all the rubs. Not trying to be funny. There's a beef, a pork, and a chicken rub, maybe it's called poultry rub, but I've got them all. And actually, I have to admit, my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter, cooked dinner for us last night, and she made chicken fingers, and she used the chicken rub, the poultry rub on the chicken fingers, and our family loved it. Like, everyone was raving about it. So if you're going to buy it,
I have to ask. I'm totally hijacking the conversation, but this apple bourbon sounds so good. Who's tried this? I want to take, but I have to hold it up on air, and this is the only bottle that I have right now here in the studio. So I want to steal it and take it home.
She will.
Actually,
she will. She's like, maybe I'll just, I don't know what happened to it.
This one in my handbag. But you know what? Andrew wants this too, and Andrew is the sweetest human I've ever known. So I'm going to send this one home with Andrew, and I'm going to wait for the next shipment. But the apple bourbon.
Tell us about it real quickly.
It is very good. It's got even some little apple chunks in it. You kind of have that sweet and sour kind of tangy. It is very good. I'm just going to end with this because I can really high-tech jack this entire segment. So yesterday, we got a new shipment here in our Denver studios, and we literally had taste tests. We had people walking around with spoons, pouring little bits of the various sauces onto the spoons and taking. Yes, very, very good.
That's all right. We'll share with our Denver people. We love you in Denver. All right, the primary elections are getting saucy. This segment brought to you, obviously, by Red State Barbecue. Red State Barbecue, Red State BBQ, that's it. No,
that's it.
Use your promo code. RedStateBBQ.com. Don't worry, we'll get through this. Use promo code RAV10 for your 10% off.
This is what happens when you get distracted about
This is what happens when you get so hungry.
Just
right?
don't type in / that's it. Don't type don't do
that. That'll be wrong.
Please don't type in that.
Picking on her. All right, guys. So over the past few days, we've discussed this, descending DeSantis, as I'm going to call him now, as polls continue to show him just slipping steadily. Despite, guys, remember, he's had 3 major shakeups. Yesterday, we discussed some polls showing that Vivek now in second place. But look, seriously, so for the people at home right now, before you head out the door, come over to your screen. I want you to get a good look who is beating DeSantis in another poll.
Ron DeSantis has fallen to 3rd place in the key early Republican primary state of New Hampshire. And one of the least likable candidates of all time, I'm sorry, Chris Christie. He is over Chris Krispy Kreme. That's all I can think when I see his name. Has overtaken him in the Emerson College poll. Although I do love Krispy Kreme, not Chris.
We know what you mean.
Never mind.
Krispy Kremes, yeah. Just not so much Chris Christie.
No.
DeSantis fell from 17%. I think this puts it in perspective, David. Fell from 17% down to 8%.
Yeah,
that's
I've got
quite a drop recently.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. There, I put on my glasses so I can read. This is classic from Big G Dog 34, who says, quote, Meatball Ron DeSanctimonious is being beaten by a jelly donut, which, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You have a meatball and a jelly donut all in one sentence, which is impressive. I just like stylistically how he did that. But anyhow, beyond all of that, the bottom line is Chris Christie beating DeSantis in New Hampshire. That says all you need to know, not about Christie, but about DeSantis.
Yeah, I think that all we need to know is that everything that we've talked about in this segment, we have turned into food in some form. It became
Even our viewers are doing it, right?
Yeah.
Jelly donut, meatball, very clever. We like you. Go ahead, Terrance. I can tell you're ready to jump in there.
In terms of some substance, like for Chris Christie, this is all very good. We already mentioned Iowa obviously comes first. You want to pick up some momentum in Iowa. But for Chris Christie, and it's still many months ahead, but if he's able to kind of continue in second place in New Hampshire, that would really mark a win for his campaign. We obviously know that President Trump is going to win Iowa, New Hampshire, and probably every other state thereafter. But for Chris Christie and a campaign in which he's trying to get some momentum, in which he's trying to really build something, that sort of performance in New Hampshire would be a massive win for him and a huge loss for Ron DeSantis.
Well, and let's also remember he's spending a lot of time in New Hampshire, so it makes sense that New Hampshire is where he's picking up steam for sure.
Right, he's trying. And also New Hampshire's not very indicative or reflective, I might say, of the rest of the states in the union. New Hampshire's kind of off in its own world a lot of times. All right, maybe this, though, is why DeSantis is dropping. A new report shows that the Florida governor has been targeted by more negative expenditures than Biden and Trump combined.
Yeah, in fact, a quarter of them in the 2024 election cycle, over $20 million. Think about that, has been targeted by Governor Ron DeSantis. Targeted towards him, yes. Which is far more than Biden and Trump. In fact, more than them combined. Yeah. Terrance, what does this say? You were saying, David, earlier that this says a lot more about DeSantis than it does Chris Christie. Terrance, that question being posed to you, what does this say about negative ads, the power of negative ads, and Trump and Biden? Because generally, Trump's been, with every indictment, and I'm sure we'll see the poll numbers come up again, he just keeps going up in the polls. Right. But usually you're going after the front runner. That's not the case. They're going after DeSantis.
Which is curious to me, that someone would be going after a Ron DeSantis who, again, we just said it, his campaign is flailing right now. And so to target him, it seems that you can just let him alone and that he will self-destruct. And again, I'm simply saying that based on what we're seeing from the campaign itself. So I find it curious that anyone would be targeting Ron DeSantis right now, particularly with negative ads. But we do know that negative attention can create a sort of buzz, if you will, that can be impactful to a campaign. And I guess we're seeing that. But we also know that any sort of attention can be good attention. You don't want to have no attention on you as someone running for president. So that, I guess, would be a victory, if you will, for the Ron DeSantis camp, that at least people are talking about it.
Well, you've got a lot of Republicans that a lot of these Republican candidates aren't going to attack Trump directly, and all the outside groups too, because they know the base of the party is with Trump. So therefore, that leaves it to DeSantis to kind of get the brunt of the hits. And I also think that there is a feeling among the establishment base, I shouldn't call it base, but the establishment wing of the party that thinks that somehow these indictments are going to eventually get to Trump, and he's going to have to, something's going to happen, he'll get convicted or something, he'll drop out, and then DeSantis will be the one left at the end. And there's still that thought. I think it's a ridiculous thought. I think it's wrong. I don't agree with it at all. But I think the establishment wing thinks that, so they're going to train their fire on DeSantis, thinking that if he is the last man standing, that he's got to be the one that they go after now. And also, let's remember, a lot of these Republicans that are in the race for 2024, they all want to be number two. They know they can't really defeat number one if they were injected with truth serum. But the truth of the matter is they would like, before they can get to number one, they got to get to number two. So you got to take down DeSantis first. And I think that's why a lot of that is money is on DeSantis.
Interesting.
A lot of people firing at him. Okay, we reported earlier that Joe Biden finally came back to work, spent over 370 days on more than a year on vacation during his residency in the White House. And he is back on his Bidenomics tour.
Yeah, but he's kind of having some trouble explaining how Bidenomics actually works or what it means.
Here we go.
Just take a look.
What happens when you build a gas station? You end up with something like a 7-Eleven or a donut shop or a drugstore around it. It generates economic growth. When I signed the bipartisan infrastructure again, which Ron Johnson and his friends didn't vote, they all voted against, I immediately approved the governor's request for expedited major disaster declaration. That's a fancy word of saying whatever you need, you're going to get. 4 to 5 years of apprenticeship. Hear me? Like going back to college. 4 to 5 years. You get paid, but not nearly what you get paid when you get your card. You got to talk more about what you do, what it takes to get it done. People aren't trying to be mean, they just don't know. But I'm sure in hell telling them. You can see how Ron Johnson's rationale and mega rationale worked out.
All right, Mr. Burns, it all makes sense now. I mean, there's no reason to continue the show. He explained it all.
We got it.
He's like the uncle. He's like the uncle at Thanksgiving who's like talking to the walls and just doesn't really know what they're talking about, and no one's listening. Literally, everybody has tuned him out. And then when he says a word, it's like he has literally he has all consonants together. There's no vowels sometimes when he's
Can I buy a vowel? Can I just buy a vowel, please?
All right. And
David Brody, I love it.
The reality of Bidenomics for so many Americans is that gas prices are back way up. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but driving into work this morning, I was like, wow, where have I been for the past few days? It's over $4 a gallon here in the Denver area. I don't know what you guys are having to pay, but I haven't paid $4 a gallon in gas since last year at the height of the crisis. And so for me, again, the reality is, and for many other people who are driving to and from work this morning, they're saying, you know what? We are back in a crisis now. We are back at the worst time that we had been in the last 4 years, definitely since President Trump was in office. And that's the reality of Bidenomics.
$4.24 for gas. $4.24 for gas.
Okay.
Where you are. Over $5 in some states, according to our chat, and that's not even including the price of groceries. Gas is so quantifiable, right? Because it's just one price, but groceries, Anyway, all right, coming up, Planned Parenthood just got a huge bill from the state of Texas into the tens of millions. We're going to tell you about this up next.
Welcome back to This American Sunrise. Dr. Gina and I are here in West Palm Beach, Florida. David Brody in Washington, D.C. and Terrance Bates in Denver. And you don't go anywhere because we still have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah. It is time to spill some tea.
Which you actually did.
By my calculation, which
you really will.
Spilling pretty much everything. We had a pen explode on us today. I opened the barbecue sauce. I didn't get it on anything that I can tell, but spilled it on myself. And yeah.
We're not going to talk about that, Gina. She was going to wrap me
up. And I
up.
usually throw tea instead of spilling it, remember?
Yeah, exactly. But this is brought to you by Artillery Tea Company, and just amazing high quality product. So yes, time to do what we do best. Spill some tea.
ArtilleryTeaCo.com. ArtilleryTeaCo.com. Use promo code RAV for 10% off. The tea is all natural, whole leaf, smells divine. The tea bags are chemical free and can be used twice if you don't throw them and lose them. And that makes 30 cups per tin. And this company, what I love about this is what I love about so many of our sponsors. It's a family-owned, veteran-owned, and operated, so you can feel good about it while you're enjoying some amazing tea.
Yeah, love it.
And they have decaf also. If people are boring and like
boring. In the afternoon, that's when you want to do it, or when you're winding down your day.
We definitely do not.
Decaf, and I know, Terrance, like you're a big tea drinker as well.
I actually had 2 cups of the mother of all bombs, Moab, mother of all bombs.
Yeah,
and that kind of
I've got that right here.
Is that the one you've got? I had 2 cups out of 1 tea bag this morning. So I came in first thing, I had 1 cup, and then I'd now keep the tea bag in a little separate cup. So when I went back right before the show in this little mug right here, I made my 2nd cup. So I am ready to go. I'm revved up. Revved up!
Whoa, okay, calm down. Maybe too much tea. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe switch to decaf. Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
How is everyone doing this morning? Again, please join us on social media. I'd love to hear your voices. Appreciate all of your comments and weighing in on the stories, because, again, that's what this network is all about. It's all about you. So did you hear about this? Did you hear that the state of Texas wants Planned Parenthood to repay $17 million in Medicaid funds? Now, the state of Texas is suing Planned Parenthood, demanding that, again, they repay millions of dollars in Medicaid reimbursements. And this is a pretty big deal. Could this happen in other states? I know, Gina, and you're over here hoping so. Right?
Well, you know, absolutely. I mean, and the reality is, if this were a crisis pregnancy center like the ones that I've worked in, this would be making huge national news. Everybody would be making a big deal out of it, trying to make them into the criminals that they want them to be. But since it's Planned Parenthood, they will protect it. They will chill it. It'll be on the back page of the newspaper instead of the front page. And that's just the way the reality is. But as my mother used to always say, couldn't happen to nicer people.
Yeah, and let me just say, this is how it's done. If you're going to, we always talk about defund the police. How about defund the abortionist? And this is exactly what needs to happen in America. We got a nickel and dime this, literally, figuratively, pun intended. We got to nickel and dime this thing, state by state, city by city, county by county. But of course, Planned Parenthood, all they do is cancer screenings, and all they do are mammograms, and all of that stuff. Give me a break. That's always their go-to line. But you're taking away money from our organization because we do mammograms all the time. No, you don't. You do abortions.
And Dr. Gina, since you're so passionate about this, it seems to me that at the crux of the matter here is basically taking away money that that Planned Parenthood has gotten that was taxpayer money to fund these sorts of issues, to fund abortions, basically.
Yeah, $1 billion business that is funded by taxpayers at the behest of our government. I mean, it's disgusting. It always has been disgusting. What they do is kill babies. Yes, they do late-term abortions. No, they do not do mammograms. And when I called there asking them if I could possibly adopt a baby, for years of my life, 10 years I did this. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I wanted to adopt a baby with Down syndrome. I said, can you help me find one? Their answer to me Finally, they solved the puzzle for me as to why I never got a baby with special needs, because supposedly they were doing all these abortions, right? Because there were so many babies that needed homes, right? No, that's not true. Finally, one poor girl who probably lost her job over it said to me, ma'am, we're not in the business of adoption. We do abortions. And that just about defined it for me.
It's heartbreaking.
All right, guys, stick around. Sunny Side Up is next. We'll be right back.
I want this soundtrack. This is going to be the soundtrack, the American Sunrise soundtrack. Get it at a store near you. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm back in Washington, and of course we've got the 4-box, the quad box. I don't know what they call it. Gina, Miranda, Terrance, hello.
Yeah. Hey, we call it American Sunrise, and you're back in D.C. We're back in West Palm. Terrance there in Denver. We got a lot coming up this week. David, what's going to be happening tomorrow on American Sunrise that you could tease our viewers?
Oh, I would love to. We've got Caroline Levitt coming up, MAGA spokeswoman. She is on fire and on brand, and we'll have her tomorrow along with all of our smiling faces and our tea and all of that.
And I know, Terrance, you're going to be on America's Voice Live. Steve Gruber on family vacation.
Busy day. Steve Gruber is on vacation, wishing him all the best. But we're still working hard for you. We're going to be talking about, obviously, the situation in Hawaii. We'll have a live interview with a pastor who is on the ground in the affected community. We'll be talking with him live, and hopefully he'll be able to give us a little bit of a tour of some of the devastation so you can see it firsthand, face for yourself, and so you can get a perspective on what you can do to help some of those folks there. So that's all coming up on America's Voice Live.
Yeah, and we want to join Dr. Gina and me at 4 o'clock Eastern time for our little happy hour, as people like to refer to it. Because
we should just change the name to happy hour.
We should just change the name to it.
Roll with it.
Yeah. And again, you'll want to stay tuned throughout the day here. Keep it right here on Real America's Voice, because we're going to have, again, that Liddell Election Summit happening in Springfield, Missouri.
With Mike Lindell's people.
With Mike Lindell's people. Steve Bannon on the ground there, Harry on the highway. We had him earlier, going to be providing some very interesting insight. Michael Flynn's going to be there. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, you know you won't be getting that on your corporate news channel.
And all
right, in today's...
ready. I'm sorry, I just wanted to say they show the video. They're getting ready.
Thank you.
You got it, honey. See ya.
You're the best. Bye. Rick, I'm at work. It's Hannah.
Oh, Hannah. I got you covered, honey.
All right. Thank you so much.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Feels different. You know what? Donald Trump did his most damage in Georgia. He sucked the soul out of the Republican Party here. He sucked the morality out of the Republican Party, the fiscal responsibility out of the Republican Party. He sucked our winning percentage out of the Republican Party. He's taken everything from us, and it is our turn to take it back, right? It's our turn to win elections based on the policies that we think we're better on. This is the prime spot for us to take Joe Biden to the woodshed and call him out for not running the border right, not protecting our communities, not putting our best foot forward internationally. These are our moments in time. But if we make this about the three-ring circus of Donald Trump, we will lose, and lose again.
From the election summit at the Springfield Exposition Center in Springfield, Missouri. It's a fantastic day. We're going to cut. Let's go to the main stage. Harry, let's go to the main stage for the prayer.
We bless you. We praise your name, God. We say you are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. There's no one beside you, God. We worship you for who you are, God. We want to give you the glory. God, we want to go ahead and thank you and praise you ahead of time for everything you're going to accomplish as a result of this event, God. God, we're crying out for hope for this nation. We're crying out for hope for the nations of the world, God, as a result of this event, God, and what you want to bring forth. God, you said we will know the truth, and the truth will set us free. But we are crying out, let your truth come now. In Jesus' name, bring revelation, bring insight, bring understanding, God. And I just pray, God, that you will bring people together, God, even from different groups that didn't want to connect or get together or talk. And that as a result of this event, that after this, God, that they will begin to come together in a common goal and a common heart, God, to have safe and secure elections in this nation, God. And that we would lay down our differences that we need to lay down, and we would come together on what's truly important, and that's saving this nation, God. God, would you bring this about? Only you can do that, Lord. We're asking for miracles. We're asking for breakthroughs. We're asking for you to go before us, God, and level the mountains. Make the crooked places straight in our lives, God. Make a way where there seems to be no way, God, for our nation. God, bring hope. You are hope, God. We trust in you. We put our hope in you, God. God, you are so mighty. You're so strong. There's nothing you can't do. God, without you, God, we can do nothing. But God, your word says, with God, all things are possible. And God, we're just crying out for your miracles now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome host of Lindell TV, Brandon House.
Okay, we're going to be going back and forth between the main stage with official greeter here, Congressman Burleson. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us here to Missouri. We couldn't be more excited in going to in Springfield. You got a tremendous convention center. Thank you for coming to this election summit.
Oh, absolutely. I'm honored that you came to Springfield, and so.
Oh, it's a Pledge of Allegiance. Let's cut to the main stage.
Please remain standing and join me in singing our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Today,
we're going to be going back and forth between the main stage, but I got to. We just started with Burleson, the guy from Duncan from Georgia, saying that they're taking the party back. That this is the end of Trump. What are your thoughts about this?
No, this is, Steve. Welcome to the country of God, guns, gold, and Trump country. And they can say that all they want, but at the end of the day, I think what's happening to our country has to be resolved. What's happening to an innocent man, a man who was successful by every right. He was the epitome of the American dream, and yet we have martyred this man. We have allowed for the left to martyr him, and I don't think we can allow that to happen ever again.
What are the folks in your district? Tell me where they are now. There's 4 cases. There's 97 indictments, I think. There's 1,000 years in prison. Where do they stand right now on Trump?
I think they all know that it's phony. They all know it's a sham, and I think it's making them more angry and more animated than ever before. And